Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes. No signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. No more. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sim Racers World TV. We're at the decisive stages of the Sunday GT Masters round 12 of 14 from the Circuit Barcelona-Catalunya. My name is Hasse Rømer. I am once more joined by Edward May in the comms booth for what promises to be an exciting race. Catalunya here, not always the best track for open wheel Formula 1 action. But once you get these GT3s on track around here, it's just so much more open and allows for so much more indeed. And we're in, Edwards, as I mentioned, this is the final 3 rounds of the championship here. We'll be touching upon the championship standings shortly as well, and it's turning out to be a really tight one here.
Yeah, it is, Hasse. Like you mentioned, the standings ever so close. There's only a few points separating first from second, and third, well, the driver in third place is on a bit of a charge, isn't he, Hasse? And I'm sure you can tell us more about how the championship is shaping up into the final 3 rounds kicked off here at Catalunya.
It shall indeed be my pleasure. What a great segue indeed. The gentleman in question, you mentioned the gentleman in third. For Rebel Racing, it's Martin de Jong in the 79 Audi. And, well, he's sitting third at the moment, but he's been gathering those points steadily over the last few races. However, Matthew Forrest leads by 2 points over Pete Plastow. So the two teammates are certainly going to be battling it out for these remaining 3 rounds. And Martin de Jong, 20 points behind on the leader. Mind you, there's still 90 points to be gathered at a maximum, so it's not a lot of bad luck required for the top 2 duelants. The heading the favor in the way of Martin de Jong, Nick McLaughlin, but quite a bit of way down on the top 3 fighters. Martin shows us a bit of plowing it into the wall there. Koen Mulder, our reigning champ, is 5th, then Nicolas Kokata, Nils Cornelis, Timothy Vanderbroek, Cody Steek, and Alfredo Tricarici, rounding off the top 10 in the standings, Edward. But it's really hard not to sort of put the focus to that 3-way fight at the top of standings there.
Yeah, it is, like you say, very close up there between Martin de Jong, who comes off the back of 2 very excellent performances, isn't he? He came 2nd place, Alton Park, 1st place at Monza, which was, well, a brilliant race in of itself, wasn't it, Hasse? Now you come to Catalunya, a circuit where you maybe not as find it as easy to overtake as you would have done at Monza, but there's still plenty of opportunities. Obviously, long run down the start finish straight into turn 1 is where we can see plenty of the action. But as well, if drivers make mistakes at any point on this inner sector, they will be punished heavily, because it's such a flowing circuit. If you get that flow disrupted for 1 second, you're so slow through the rest of the lap.
It is indeed true, and it's also a track where we could see tire degradation come into play, especially with that long turn. What is that, turn 4? Or is it even just turn 3? I think it's actually turn 3, but the long right-hander in sector 1 that really puts a lot of strain on the left front tire. Whoever manages that the best will have a bit of an advantage there come the end of the race. Of course, we're in practice. We've got about 5 minutes before we head into our usual 15-minute qualifying session, closely followed by a tried and tested 45-minute race with a fuel cap on 50%. The 60 liters, incidentally, that's going to make him run for about 30 minutes before we will see a round of pit stops. And as a specialty for this series, we do have a alternating setup rule, you could say. So the odd rounds are open. Still thank Edward May for bringing that to my mind. I would have been confused for the entirety of the season had that not been the case. But the odd ones are indeed open setup, which means we're in an even round here, the 12th round of racing for this season. So fixed setups it is here. And even though it's been, I think it's been challenging for the drivers, and for some of them also maybe a bit of a relaxing factor that they don't have to dig up setups for every week. But Do you think we've seen any sort of differences when looking back on the season? Drivers or cars that have been stronger on the open or the fixed setups?
Yeah, I think you say some drivers work better with fixed setup, some with open. And I know the Lamborghini has got a particularly feisty fixed setup with the, I think it's the brake pads or something, the brake master cylinders that are a little bit different towards the front to the rear, which can cause some instability on braking into the corner. So you need to be very deft with your foot on the brake pedal, which Matthew Forrest has seemingly been able to adapt to. However, I can tell you that BMW fixed setups are absolutely wonderful. So it's no surprise to see Eric Loop fastest in this practice session, along with, well, Van der Broek, who himself is actually doing all right for himself in stage 1 racing. So that can definitely work in favour of certain drivers, maybe not so much in others. Surprised as well, actually, to see we haven't got too many Ferraris. They were really the car to be in, but unfortunately, there's only 3 of them on track now.
Yeah, indeed. And it's, of course,
and
I
notably,
think...
actually, last season's champion who drives the Ferrari isn't here.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame. There are 2 names for me that are really missing, of course. One of them being our reigning champ, and the other one being a certain Brazilian indeed as well. Valdez Suarez Jr. not being here, I think he added so much color in his yellow Ferrari as well to the series and to the racing, and was really always one to watch. But of course, there are always also real-life commitments, and we do have to follow these as well. Now we're on board with Matthew Forrest. We're going to stay on board before the lap here. For anyone that doesn't know the Catalunya track, well, here we are. First sector, still in it. A long, tight right-hander here. As you can see all the way around, there's plenty of track to play with, plenty of width here. This left-hander, tight and tricky as well, because of the downhill coming into it. Car really wants to go onto the gravel here. Flat out through the left-hand kink. Then the curb on the left-hand side can really upset the car, and so can the sausage curb on the right there. Pretty decent-sized lift as you crest the hill onto the middle straight, down towards the hairpin here that's been changed somewhat over the recent years, and it's in real life a little bit different now. They've opened up the corner, resembling what it used to look like in the olden days, a little bit more. So important to keep the car tight through this long right-hander as well. And then the final chicane here, this bit of a cumbersome sector, and it's not one that's getting a lot of love anywhere in the world. I think this corner used to be a lot faster than it is nowadays, but it's still a track to behold. Still offers some great racing, at least in my opinion, especially in the slower classes, and of course a GT3 car isn't slow per se, but it's certainly no Formula 1 car either in terms of either horsepower or downforce. Oh, as Martin de Jong has had some kind of problem here. Let's see what happened to the Dutchman. Oh, just picks off the grass.
Yeah, and the run into turn 7, it's easily done when you try and maximize the run into the corner, which is crucial for that sector because it's fast flowing and sets you up for that long sweeping right-hander that you need to lift for going onto that sort of middle straight like you mentioned, Hasse. So Martin de Jong struggling just a touch, but of course this is only practice. He's finding the limits of the car, trying to get it all set up and ready for qualifying that will be coming up in just a few minutes' time.
Indeed, and that's one of the places where I think for many drivers the fixed setups can really be a little bit tricky to deal with, because if you're used to having a qualifying setup that's really poised and super, pointy and really set up for that one lap speed, I think it can be hard to really extract the most out of your race setup, basically.
Yeah, Matthew Forrest, then he's going to be looking to try and get his championship back on track. He's not had the best round last time out at Monza, but qualifying is the best chance to try and get yourself back up the order. Qualifying on pole is going to be the order of the day, I think, for Matthew Forrest, but his teammate Eric Loop did look very strong in the practice sessions, so keep your eyes open for the virtual racing compound BMW driver to see if he can snatch another pole position, who, to be fair, I think if we saw him join at the start of the season. He could be a real contender, but unfortunately he joined partway through, didn't he, Hasse? I think at Road Atlanta, if memory serves correct. So unfortunately Eric Luke won't be challenging for silverware.
No, that's true indeed. And I think should he return for the next season of racing next year, I'm sure he'll be able to find himself fighting for the top places. We've seen our regular flow of cars from the pit lane here at second zero, basically everyone wanting to really maximize the run time here in qualifying. As we've seen before, it can be difficult to get that clean lap in. Although by now, Edward, I think we also see that most of the drivers in the series are getting accustomed to the format, and they get into the routine of just how to place yourself in qualifying and make sure you have the gap needed, the necessary gap to the car in behind, and of course we see drivers pushing too hard. We see drivers, messing up their laps, but we rarely see those kind of incidents with traffic really playing such a big part in qualifying here, and that's nice to see indeed.
Yeah, definitely. So we can see actually the way the traffic plays a part is when the drivers work together. You can see Chris Roberts in the 77 Virtual Racing Compound starting his first flying lap. Look who's right in behind the BMW, the 709, Eric Luke. So Eric's maybe a little bit too close actually to get any real main benefit, because he could get slowed up in the corners. In fact, he has just dropped a little bit back through here. Chris Roberts then, the Virtual Racing Compound, will look to go to the top of the time standings with his first flying lap. Good flow through the first few corners. Going into turn 4, Repsol going for that later apex, which helps out, but he runs just a little bit wide, might have to back out just a touch of the throttle, keeps it through. And turn 5, downhill, plunging away through again, late apex power on, use all of the exit curb available to you. Slight little kink, turn 6, then 7 and 8 come very quickly up to you. To be fully committed on the way through to avoid that sausage curb on the apex of turn 8, which he does, then through turn 9, pitching it through, avoiding that little bump on the inside as well. Full use of the exit curb. Just looking at a very stable lap from Chris Roberts. Could be going fast as the timing sheet's braking hard now for turn 10. Getting the car turned through, which is the Porsche's strong suit, is that turning ability. Through turn 12 and then 13. Sweeping it through the right-hander, trying to pick up the throttle as early as you can. Could find a little bit more time there. Crisp, potentially, and then sending it through. You can really carry a lot of speed through that right-hander, and then the chicane, slow it right down, get the car settled on the power, flat up through here, keep it pinned through the final turn, and that is a flying lap of the circuit, the Barcelona-Catalunya from Chris Roberts. 77, does he go fastest as he comes across the line? No, not enough. Timothy van der Broek takes that honour with a 1 minute 45.11.
Yeah, indeed, and he was up there in practice as well, so no real surprises from the Dutchman, and as you mentioned, Edward, the BMW does indeed look strong here tonight. I was just sitting here casting my mind back to the last race at Monza, and the incident and the subsequent reaction as well from Pete Plastow, that wasn't... He wasn't happy. He wasn't happy at all, was he? And he was very diplomatic about it in the end, but there was certainly some rough edges to iron out between himself and Matthew Forrest. And look who we have here together on track in qualifying as well, with Pete Plastow really trying to get that little bit of an advantage maybe on Matthew Forrest, who spins there on his first flying lap.
Oh, so Matthew Forrest with a moment as to get back on track.
Sorry.
Coming through now on pit exit, Hasse.
Yeah, of course, it's not the first flying lap, as I cut across you rudely, Edward. I'm very sorry about that, but I just had to point out the fact that, of course, with Matthew Forrest sitting second, he has put in his first banker, but it, by any means, not optimal at all.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what, obviously, Pete Plastow can do. There is some rough edges, like you said, to these two, but they are fighting for the championship. It's to be expected, even the best of friends, when your teammates, as you've seen in all race series, when you're fighting for the title, no matter what it is, you want to win, you want to come out best, and Pete Plastow has come out on top, but that's quickly beaten by Eric Luke. So it is Virtual Racing Compound on the front row, locking it out at the moment, but this is going to be close. Can Matthew Forrest answer back?
A good question, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it. It's the VRC cars almost filling up the top 5. Well, that's sole Stage 1 racing machine of Timothy van der Broek in between. Gaston Maceroni, who we have indeed got clarified by now, Edward. It is indeed Maceroni. They appreciated the jokes, but but now apologies for the years. I want to say by now it's been 2 years of me calling him by the name of a popular pasta type. Indeed, my apologies, and shall see it fixed in. Jokes aside, and the serious stuff aside as well, back to some more serious stuff, which is qualifying indeed. We're approaching the halfway point here. It's looking like we expected it more or less to look at least, going from the time set in practice. And the one driver at the moment for me really must be wanting to get a little bit more out of it here. Is Matthew Forrest, currently 4th there, but
yeah, it's intriguing, is it? Seeing down the order. Where as well though is Martin de Jong Forever Racing hasn't set a flying lap, so third place in their championship needs to get a move on. I think if he wants to get something out of this qualifying session, halfway through, just about. Pete Plastow going now to the top ahead of Eric Luke with a brilliant lap time, 1:44.81. Excellent lap time there from the Englishman. The Ferrari, like we say, with the fixed setup, does seem to go well, and it's consistent and it's stable, which will help him out to no end in the race. Whereas cars like the Audi and, of course, the Lamborghini, not so easy to drive on the fixed setups.
No, indeed, it's not so bad, is it? It's the thing is that once you meet the limit in the mid-engine machines, they tend to be a little bit more snappy and a little bit harder to control than some of the front-engine cars. I won't say the Audi in particular. You really, if you make no mistakes with it, it's a very, very capable machine. I don't own the Lamborghini. I've heard about the twitchiness. The Audi, having lived with the Audi for a few years now racing, and it used to be a lot worse, actually, in my opinion, than it is nowadays. Oh, Martin de Jong finds himself sliding about there. Oh, my word. It was just
a bit of oversteer, I think, Hasse. Got a twitch and had to get on the brakes to stop it. That was, like you were talking about, Hasse, the Audi twitch is still alive and kicking.
Absolutely so, and a little bit surprising. Maybe the fact that the new tire model takes a little bit longer to warm up. I wouldn't imagine it being a tricky car to handle on cold tires. And we've seen the more laps they're doing, the quicker they tend to become. Oh, as de Jong goes into the grass here, and that's not the grass, that's the gravel. He's going to hit the wall as well.
And that's bad news for Martin de Jong. He's going to pull to the pits, and this is going to be his real final time to get something. He's going to have to do one full out lap where he's not able to take anything from it, and then go for broke in these final few moments of qualifying. Pete Plastow currently sits pretty atop the timing sheets, just a little bit ahead of Eric Luke by 1.5 tenths of a second, which isn't too much really, considering it's a 1 minute, nearly a 1 minute 50 lap time, 1 minute 45s on average in this qualifying session. So what can Pete Plastow do? Has he got any more to find through? He's still on flying laps, Hasse, and he's, to be fair, looking very stable out there.
He is indeed, and he's looked very, very dialed as well over both practice and now in qualifying as well. Really, I think, wanting to maximize the opportunity here, as we've seen Chris Roberts go ahead of Matthew Forrest as well. So Forrest now down into 5th place, provisionally of course, with just under 5 minutes to go of the session. Oh, Chris Roberts getting held up, just as I said it earlier. Well, it does indeed happen.
Got a good toe, Chris Roberts, but he's got to be careful to not get held up by Niels Cornelius here, who I think is... No, not getting out of the way. He's entitled to go on a flying lap, of course. Doesn't have to get away. No blue flags in this qualifying session. That might upset the rhythm, though, of Chris Roberts, who's currently sitting in 5th place. Held him up just a touch there, I think, Niels Cornelius. Not deliberately, not maliciously. It's just when drivers are on qualifying laps, they can sort of, I guess, find one another on the circuit.
Yeah, that's true. And there are a lot of cars as well running, so it does make sense. One thing I'm noting with Niels Cornelius and his car, a little bit dented to me, and that's something I don't really understand as to why wouldn't you return to the pits, get your damage sorted out. That's going to cost him, if not...
I don't even think he's aware that he has damage, to be fair. It's quite easy to somehow pick up damage, especially through the sausage curves, through that final sector, Hasse. So
that might be. That's a good point.
I think it's a matter that Niels Cornelius doesn't actually realise he has damage.
What a good reason to always have the SRW TV stream running in the background while racing. If that's not a distraction, I don't know what is. I certainly wouldn't like to have myself rambling on in the background and getting all excited all of a sudden when something happens in the different end of the pack. Eric Luke here now. Oh, Matthew Forrest up into 2nd place. And he's looking to better that. Still 3 minutes to go, so still attempts to be made.
Comes across the line, breaks, that's it for Matthew Forrest. And he isn't able to go fast. He sets slightly slower lap time. And that's it for Matthew Forrest. He might be able to go out with an outlap and then set one final flyer. He's going to do exactly that. Pete Plasdow's got the same idea, currently on an outlap. Eric Luke then, he's probably going to have to do flyers all the way till the end. Pete Plasdow warming up the tyres. He's trying to get every last little gain possible. Eric Luke, what sort of lap time is he going to pull out the bag, Hasse?
Good question.
Big slide. Big slide through turns 7 and 8 there, but he held it nicely. That's the thing about the BMW, Hasse, is that it's a nice stable platform. You can catch it if it tries to brake on you.
You can indeed, but so can you with the new Porsche Cup car. It's much to the tires, I think. But indeed, the BMW. I've driven it. I own the BMW as well, and it's a good car. Although it also tends to be a little bit on the understeery side. At least it used to be. It might have been getting better. The turn-in, especially on the fixed setup. Seems better here for Eric Luke, at least, of course. It's a car that likes to be turned on the brakes as well. Master that kind of trail braking technique. You can really get a lot out of this machine here. Eric Luke, though, not seemingly able to better what he said before.
That slowed him down. That was definitely about a 10th or 2's worth of time lost. As we come now to Pete Plasdow on a flying lap. Will he be able to get this one done and another one?
Martin de Jong!
Oh my word, Martin de Jong! What on earth happened there? Where did that come from? Martin de Jong, fastest by a country mile, a 44.5.
He's done a 44.5 and he's got a 5th rear wing as well. I have no idea just how that happened. We've got a replay of Martin coming around here. He's gone off track, so I wonder if that's where he damaged the wing. I think it was. Do you reckon he's gone and put the pole time in after that?
Oh no, you've definitely put it in, I think, before that happened, I would imagine.
I would be surprised as well.
I'll tell you what, from Martin de Jong, that is a brilliant time to go fastest. To the left suddenly. All the others, Pete Plasdow, Matthew Forrest, Eric Luke, having to scramble for 2nd place. Can Pete Plasdow get a gain? He's right up behind the rear end of, I think, who is that actually just ahead? It's the it's the car of 13th place, Cody Steeg. Good toe all the way down the start finish straight here for Pete Plasdow. He goes fastest, but not pole position. The checker flag is waved, so he's able to continue on his laps, I think, Hasse. So this is it. Pete Plasdow, final driver across the line before the checker flag was dropped. he'll be the last driver to set a flying lap.
Yeah, indeed, but Matthew Forrest on a flying lap right now. We still have to see what he has to give. Well, that didn't look completely composed to me. The Lamborghini, I think, is a hard car to master, especially in the braking zones on that fixed setup you've mentioned. It does indeed look that way for Matthew Forrest, although he's going quite quickly here through this final sector.
Van der Broek goes faster, isn't able to improve. Hasse just seen him fourth fastest, cementing his place there on the second row. Matthew Forrest, though, comes out of the final corner, comes across the line. Not an improvement, unfortunately. Matthew Forrest will be starting on the second row, right behind this man, Pete Plaslow. Or will it be Martin de Jong, who's going to be on pole position? This is it for Pete Plaslow. He's got the track to himself now. This could be a brilliant final charge from Pete Plaslow. He's set out his bank collapse. It's all or nothing now for the driver of the 312 Ferrari.
Track temp 24, so they should have pretty good conditions to race in, also in terms of the tire wear here.
Oh, slightly scruffy final.
And he abandons it.
Yep, that's into the pits. Into the pits from Martin de Jong. So Hasse, not Martin de Jong, Pete Plaslow. So that means Martin de Jong, out of nowhere, I think that was his one and only flying lap, he's put it on pole.
That's absolutely insane, but just goes to show that there is something in there. And it's a big surprise indeed, because he was sort of up there in practice, but not on that kind of pace. It's, well, in the end, it's not all that grand of a difference. 0.05 of a second separating Martin de Jong and Pete Plaslow. With that said, let's have a look at the grid order. We are indeed able to... Oh, not quite yet. We still have a car roaming the track, it seems. I think that is Mariano Lasarte, who now rolls into the pit lane.
I do like that livery he's got on. A very nice looking Porsche there. I think that's the first time I've actually seen Mariano in the Porsche. I can't remember seeing a virtual racing compound driver using the new Porsche.
Well, that's virtual racing and not the VRC drivers. Yeah, I know that's not confusing at all. Anyway, we have the 79 of Martin de Jong on pole position ahead of Pete Plaslow, Matthew Forrest, and Timothy van der Broek on row 2, with Eric Luke and Chris Roberts on row 3. Then it's Dirk Reski and Gaston Maceroni. And then we got Remco Barlow joined by Stephen Orrell on row 5. Row 6 consists of Nuno Vinagre with Emanuele Lucioli. Row 7 indeed with Cody Steek and Mariano Lasarte. And we've got Alfredo Tricarici joined by Chris Pio. Then Matt Sisseler, Nils Cornelis, Jose Godinho, then Sandro Orsini, with Giambattista Giacchetti, Timo Paya, and Gaston Borri rounding off the pack. Currently a little bit smaller, I would believe, because of the Formula 1 race that started 20 minutes ago. We won't give any spoilers, because we don't know any spoilers, because I
don't know what's going on.
At least I am very much looking forward to putting on the race and going to bed with it. I was about to say that just before realizing that it would sound sort of funny, but I said it anyways, just for the giggles.
Tell you what, though, Hasse, this is shaping up to be a great race, isn't it? With obviously Martin de Jong pole position, but his lap times, they were a little bit consistent. There were a few mistakes, and was that just because he was pushing too hard, or is he struggling to come to grips with the car? Are we going to see him struggle in the race over a consistent race distance? Whereas Pete Plaslow has looked steady as anything. He's looked really, really strong. So from second place, he could be one to watch to try and take the race lead and try and take the lead of the championship. Timothy van der Broek as well. Don't count him out in the BMW. He's not got any official affiliation to all of these virtual racing compound drivers around him. He could try and upset the apple cart, Hasse. There's so much going on. It's about to get underway.
Yeah, indeed. And it is indeed the perfect story we've got here, isn't it? With the top 3 drivers in the standings also being the top 3 on the grid. Just needing to sort that out real quick. I'll tell you what, Edward, in real life, that would have handed you a penalty, that wouldn't it? Taking the lead car You're gritting up. Anyways, that's not the case in iRacing, I'm well aware. So let's not make a
they're in
mountain.
reverse order, the top three, in terms of where they are in the championships. This is going to be brilliant.
Brilliant indeed. To use a good old expression, let's not make a mountain out of a molehill, as we expect the start to happen in a short second. Actually, it's happened right about now because Martin de Jong's gone very early, and he's caught everyone out. And I wonder, did he pass the pace car too early there?
No, he's got it. He's totally fine. I know where you can go in this track, and he's got it absolutely nailed to perfection. He's gone as early as he can, Hasse. All the cars coming down now into turn one, battling, as you can see, between the two teammates, Eric Luke and Chris Roberts. Virtual Racing compound were having a bit of a scrap, and I think Eric Luke has managed to retain 5th place, but Timothy van der Broek, he was absolutely switched on at the start. He could see when Martin de Jong went, took advantage. Matthew Forrest, unfortunately, got caught napping there and has dropped back a place into 4th.
Yeah, indeed. Well spotted. So that's another turn in the battles in this tail here. As Martin de Jong got a very good start, but look at Pete Plastow. He's already piling on the pressure. He's looking, showing himself in the mirrors of the Dutchman. And I like how Martin de Jong's form just has been creeping up over the season. A few bad races. That's certainly gonna count out for the good races still to have here, as Matthew Forrest is having to defend from Eric Luke in the BMW.
This is excellent stuff. And yeah, like you mentioned, Hasse, Martin de Jong has got a really good turn of pace. He won obviously the first race of the season, but from then on out, he's started to struggle, and now he's started to find the form once more. I think the new time model has really helped out his driving ability, because ever since then, he has been one of the top drivers here in this Sunday GT Masters SimracerCoin Championship. As we see, Niels Cornelis getting it all out of shape on those cold tyres. Wow, what a job to keep it out of the wall, though.
Incredible. Good stuff there. And as such, I don't think we've had anything major on lap 1. Of course, great to see here. A good start indeed, as you said, for Timothy van der Broek. Shown his pace in practice. Seems like the Audi has some good top speed, though. And it mightn't be the fastest car through the middle sector. I'm not quite sure of this, of course. But it seems every time they come down to turn 1, there's a bit of a gap there for Martin de Jong. Bit of a twitch.
Just a touch of a gap, but I think we're going to see the car, when it gets back up onto those fully temped up tyres, might start to stabilise just a touch.
Yeah, indeed. Oh, here Niels Cornelis. Oh, and he's got touched by Timo Paya and turned around. Gonna go down as a racing incident because Paya went wide. Well, partially because Cornelis was there as well. Back we are at the front of affairs, and I'm afraid that's been an issue as well for Gaston Borri. Though we're not getting spared of early race incident. That one looked a little bit strange to me.
Oh,
that's Sandro Orsini getting caught up in it in the Porsche, I'm afraid. Spared too much time though over these incidents early race, because I want eyes fixed and focused on what goes on at the head of affairs here. Because not only have we seen a lot of good racing, but we've seen some really, really tight, close racing, some unpredictable stuff as well at the front of the field this season, which in turn is also why we're sitting here with this race, 2 more to go, and a championship standing, I could get the word out my mouth, as close as it is here.
yeah, it is very, very close. And I'll tell you what, it could be even closer if things stay as they currently are, with Martin de Jong fastest, leading the race so far. Last out in 2nd place. And Timothy van der Broek, well, he's definitely upsetting the apple cart, isn't he, ahead of Matthew Forrest, who himself was actually under a bit of pressure from Eric Luke. I want to have a look at that gap if we can, Hasse, because I think it's still as close as it was. Yeah, half a second. Matthew Forrest struggling in this early phase. It's down to just the stability of the BMW. You can push it that much harder, Eric Luke, whereas Matthew Forrest needs to look after the car just a bit more in the Lambo.
Yeah, indeed. And I also think Matthew Forrest might just be mindful of the fact that if he saves his tires a little bit here in the earlier stage of the race, that might just come into his advantage come the latter parts. And 5 minutes into it, you know, it's so easy to get caught up at this stage of a race and really just pushing as hard as you can, going balls to the wall basically, and kind of forgetting that even though this is still just a sprint race, 45 minutes, it's at least in my world that counts as a sprint race, but you can really overcook the tires so easily here. Martin de Jong having to go defensive into turn 1. That's a very good run from Pete Plastow, though.
There's no way through. He's going to have to wait his time through turn 3. It was a great run through turn 1, though. Shows where he's strong, Pete Plastow, but can't really make gains. Sending a little look into turn 4, but not really fully committed to the overtake. You can see he's just trying to upset the run of Martin de Jong, but they're keeping the gap just about the same so far this race. And we saw it last time at Monza, didn't we, Hasse? The drivers like to stabilise in this phase, or usually like to stabilise, as we see Mariano Lazarte battling with, well, that's Alfredo Trigarici going down the inside, to virtual racing drivers, scrapping it out. Now, what I was going to say is that drivers like to settle into a bit of a rhythm here, Hasse, and then start to attack just when the pit stops are about to come in. Yeah, it's what we've seen before, and it's it wouldn't surprise me that a lot of the decisive moments today will come on the pit stops. We've seen Martin de Jong being quite strong on the pit stops as well, so we just have to wonder if he'll be able to pull something out of the bag today. He might just have to, because Pete Plastow is looking very, very strong indeed on race pace, but honestly, it doesn't look like a lot really is separating the top 5 altogether. Still seem close on pace to one another. Very Luke, yeah, like you say, it's dropped back just a touch from this front fight. Maybe a mistake somewhere, Hasse?
Yeah, either that or he's willingly dropping off, just ever so slightly, knowing that, well, there isn't really anything to go up into except for a big old fight indeed. And that might not be gainly in the end. You can see Matthew Forrest starting to come back onto the tail of the BMW of Timothy van der Broek. And with that in mind, it might make sense for Eric Luke as well, just to hold off as well. Play the patient card here. Either that or he might just be enjoying the battle up ahead. Certainly a prime viewing position here from 5th place. All the cars ahead still being well within his view. Into the hairpin. But then again, Martin de Jong doesn't look to be really pressing his car too hard in any way, and that might be the correct approach to take here as well.
It could be indeed. I think Martin de Jong is starting to struggle a little bit, but is now going back on song and trying to extend the gap to Pete Plastow, who's closing in. It's Eric Luke. Big moment there for Eric. What on earth happened there? There's a bit of damage to the rear wing. Oh, the car is already going on the exit there. Chris Roberts takes that position rather easily, and Eric Luke, I think, makes a mistake all by himself. A very strange one, because you don't usually see the rear of the car breaking away in the BMW.
Oh,
it was just on the sausage curb, Hasse. Yeah. Just on the exit of the final chicane.
Takes so little to get it wrong there, and he has to pull in for repairs, it seems.
Now, though, he's not going to make it to the end of the race. He's going to need another pit stop after that. So that's catastrophic for Eric Luke's race.
Absolutely so. It's gifted a
Pit window
position.
doesn't open for another about 6 or 7 minutes, Hasse.
That's a good point. Oh, that's terrible luck indeed. Surely it doesn't take a lot to get things wrong in the end. So, just a friendly reminder to everyone else out there. Keep everything within the limits here. You can see Van der Broek now really on the tail of Pete Plastow as well. And I reckon this is because Plastow being ever so slightly held up by Martin de Jong. De Jong who's really doing a clever drive here. Making sure he's slow in the right places and in the right ways as well. Not compromising his corner exits. Rather just carrying a little less speed through on the apexes. You can do that and still make it very, very hard for someone to actually get their nose in.
There's Timothy Van der Broek under a little bit of pressure now, actually, from Matthew Forrest. Now that Matthew's been released from the clutches of Eric Luke, who was right up behind him for quite a few laps. I think we're starting to see all of these four come together and have a bit of a scrap. Chris Roberts in the background as well. He could quite easily gain on all of these front fighters should they start to squabble, as they have been looking, maybe thinking about squabbling, but I think at the moment they're going to start to settle in.
Well, I said that about Eric Luke, and look what happened. So I'm just gonna say something else here and say that yeah, of course they're gonna try and settle in, but as you settle in, oh, look at Pete Plastow just touching the sausage. See, it's those kind of small mistakes that can really catch up to you. It doesn't take a lot for everything to go really, really wrong all of a sudden. And those small things can also be the things that in turn break the rhythm and make it all the harder to settle in, which you really want to do in the end. Martin de Jong, I think, is going to be happy to have that little bit of breathing space. Plastow for the very late apex.
Let's see, Pete Plastow. It's in his best interest to try and get ahead of Martin de Jong, of course, with the championship coming to a close in these final few rounds. Of course, last round of the championship, I believe, is going to be a open setup round. Oh, actually, no, it won't be open. It'll be no.
It'll be open the next round, and then the final round will be fixed, indeed.
Ah, yes. So, odds open, which means 13th round, next round, yeah, open. Again, so I like to say I know what the format is, and that I've been able to drill you into it, but sometimes I forget myself.
But we're there to pick up one another when we need it, aren't we?
Yeah.
And had a problem, I'm afraid, for Stephen Orrell.
Yeah.
Gotta wonder what happened here to
Is it going to be the same as what we saw to Eric Luke just a few laps before?
There he is.
Spun in a similar space, stopped facing the same way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Carbon
those
copy.
exit curves, so hard, so punishing as well if you get it wrong. Stephen Orrell, he's done an Eric Luke and lost the rear, and actually he's gone into the pits as well. So opting to come into the pits, it must do a lot of damage to the car if they immediately decide to come into the pits, because they can't make it to the end of the race now.
Oh, we're still
They
not
need
at
to
the
pit
point.
again.
Still not at the point, that's right, where it's going to be possible. There's just and it's a question of minutes, actually, before that pit window goes and opens up. But not quite there yet. It's certainly not going to be the fastest way. You're going to spend a lot of time with a lot of fuel in the car should you go into the pits, having started on a full tank, of course. And I don't think we've ever seen anyone really go for that opposite strategy of starting with less fuel in the car and then coming in for a longer pit stop at some point. And maybe for that exact reason that you are going to come in, you are going to have to stop for longer.
Yeah, I don't really think that's the strategy to go for. You want to spend as little time stationary in the pits as possible. So if I was Martin de Jong, from where I am, I'll try and go as long as possible and pit for a short time as possible. And in fact, actually, that was what got Martin de Jong the lead in Monza, if you can remember, Hasse. He went a few laps longer than those around him, had a short pit stop, and came out in front.
Yeah, indeed, that's true. Oh, Chris Pio here on Tricorici, and he's gonna go through in the Ford GT, and look at Matt Sisselos wanting to get involved with that as well. They hunt in packs together, the Ford GTs, and it's a sight to behold, and a special sound as well. Supercharged V8, certainly quite a bit different than anything else nowadays on this grid. Maybe safe for the AMG Mercedes, but still sounds very different. Seems Plastau is leaning a little bit more on his tires entering the corners. Might just be what I'm seeing from it, but as I say that there, Martin de Jong goes a little bit. Yeah, exactly. I have a strong curse about me tonight, don't I?
This is going to be Pete Plastau trying to go for the lead now. Hasse, he's right up behind. This is the closest he's been all race into turn one. It's going to be defensive driving here from Martin de Jong down the inside into the first corner, around the outside. Pete Plastau's going to try and do it, try and break late, but good defense from Martin de Jong, able to hold on. Again, Pete Plastau takes the line, cutting the inside of turn one, but isn't able to get through before turn number 3. That was a real opportunity for Pete Plastau to get ahead. Just couldn't get it through.
Indeed. That Martin de Jong had been off for a second, but I take it that's just a quick off track. Indeed. Battle for 9th place, that's Emanuele Lucioli. Cody Steek in the Mercedes. Not a lot of Mercedes on the grid as well. 3 cars fielded. And certainly see the Porsche 911 carrying quite a lot of popularity. The GT class. It's a nice car to drive as well. From the viewpoint of Matthew Forrest, it's still a very open fight up ahead. He's flown under the radar so far, along with Timothy van der Broek, of course, and I don't think we've seen the last from either of them tonight.
No, I definitely think there's still more to come, especially from Matthew Forrest down in 4th place. Not what he's going to be hoping for, especially considering he is just about holding on to the championship lead. Martin de Jong, if he comes through and wins this race, that'll do his championship the whole world of good, wouldn't it? Who's, well, about 20 points back, actually, from championship leader Matthew Forrest in these final few rounds. Any sort of gains he can make will be very much appreciated, I'm sure.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely so. Timothy van der Broek be the first time that he, I think, even would finish on the podium. Could be wrong, at least for this season. He'll be hoping to keep it in the sweet spot. He's done a very good job of just keeping pace with the front runner so far.
If you want, Hasse, I can tell you that Timothy van der Broek has got a podium position this season, and I think it was at Watkins Glen where he came P3.
That is true indeed. That is true indeed.
So we'll be looking to try and repeat that performance at Watkins Glen here at Barcelona-Catalunya. Can he get it though? Can he hold on? Because he's got Matthew Forrest right up behind. In fact, actually, Timothy overshooting it slightly through the long right-hander. Not under any pressure or any danger from an overtake from Matthew Forrest, who has a little look but doesn't go for it. Has dropped back just a touch though. Will look to gain back up through the chicane and stay in the slipstream of Pete Plastau, which he does. So a little mistake, but not too bad for Timothy.
Oh, it could be worse. It could be a lot worse. But it's also one of those places where that final part of the track, that final chicane, is a little bit clunky because it's just so difficult to make space. There's a bit of a bottleneck in the track as well. It's a little bit narrower than it is almost all the way around as well, and it's just so hard to make anything happen down there without making too much happen, dare I say. And I think Matthew Forrest, being well aware of just that, he held off that little bit extra there. Now he's lost a bit of time. I think he knows that there isn't really a point battling before the pit stop anyways, so he might as well just save what he can and keep his gunpowder dry, as they would say.
Yeah, see what Pete Plastow can do in this later stage. Pit stop's expected to come within the next 10 minutes or so. From now until the next 10 minutes, drivers should be coming in for their one and only pit stop of this race. Who's going to blink first? So we did see Virtual Racing compound drivers go that little bit earlier, but that was because they were leading the race and scrapping, whereas now it's Martin de Jong's turn to be in front. Has he been able to save the fuel?
Well, just about 10 minutes, and I believe we shall see some answers. Just that. Can the Audi really... Oh, Matthew Forrest! The first to blink.
Ooh.
A little bit of a shaky pit entrance there as he really goes in to maximize.
Now, this Hasse could be either wonderful or woeful for Matthew Forrest. He's going to come out with a bit of traffic, but he's coming earlier, trying to go for the undercut maneuver here, which, depending if he has clear track, is going to be brilliant for him. If he doesn't, it's going to be just so hard for him to find something out of this race. He's coming out of the pits now. Watch where everyone else is. Just been passed by Chris Pio. Matt Sissler isn't too far behind, but he's going to come out in front just ahead of the other four GTs. So he's got a decently amount of clear space, Matthew Forrest. This could be a very good move for him.
I think indeed. I think... but then again... Might also just be because he felt he was just sitting there, not really able to do anything about anything. Look at that, the gap now almost up to 1 second. And at the same time, Van der Broek very close to Pete Plastow here. And I think there might have been a small mistake somewhere along the way there for Pete Plastow. I kind of expect that it has to have been that way. I reckon it's Martin de Jong now starting to put down the hammer after having saved the fuel that he wanted to. It's certainly fun to see that all of a sudden, finding that pace in the car, seeming to try and extend the advantage now down to Pete Plastow. He's driven a really good race so far, Martin de Jong. Right from his perfectly timed launch at the start and all the way through. Can't be said though for all of the other top 4 contenders here. We did have Eric Luke, who fell victim to some bad luck indeed. He's now cutting through on Cody Steek, but mind you, Eric Luke, I believe at least, is going to have to do a late pit stop. Unless he'll be able to...
There's no way for Eric Luke to carry on, I think, Hasse.
No, I'm afraid not. I'm afraid you are correct on that one. He would have to save some humongous amounts of fuel in order to make that materialize. I don't think that's going to be a possibility for him.
Let's have a look though. Pete Plastow, Tuthi Van der Broek, both losing touch now to Martin de Jong. Now, what is Martin going to do? He's got the track space. He's got plenty of room. This could be a time to stay out, not worry about those in behind, hope that they start scrapping. But as well, the further away you are, the less slipstream you're giving to him behind. And you can try and build that gap more and more. So I think Martin de Jong, it's his best interest to stay out for as long as he can. Timothy Van der Broek, what's he going to do? I think basically you do whatever Pete Plasdow doesn't.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And indeed, yeah, because Martin de Jong's car is going to be considerably lighter than Matthew Forrest's machine further down. And he's going to be sitting on that advantage. And now with the slipstream all but broken, there might be the slightest hints of a toe still being caught by Pete Plastow, but certainly nothing close to what we've seen earlier.
And Hasse, I've just noticed Matthew Forrest closing up to Chris Pio. So is Chris going to come into the pits, or will Matthew Forrest find himself getting held up? He's not coming to the pits, so Matthew Forrest might find himself starting to struggle to pass the Ford GT here. This could be crucial for the racers. Dirk Reski and Mariano Lazarte make their way into the pits. Matthew Forrest, obviously one of the first drivers to make their one and only pit stop. Is this going to work out for him, though? That's the real question me and you, Hasse, we've been asking all race long.
Yeah, indeed. Well, he is going to lose a little bit here because he hasn't passed him immediately. And then in itself, it's not great for Matthew Forrest. And that's, of course, a very good reason. Oh, he gets the dive in there. Chris Pio doesn't want to get involved with the drivers on different strategies. That's gentlemanly indeed here. Remco Barlau, 10th at the moment here in the BMW. And he has had a pit stop as well, but it was on lap 9 of the race. Just wonder, might that have been just about in time to actually make it to the end? I think that could actually be the case, though I'm not quite certain. Out in front here, it's another extension of the gap for Martin de Jong. It's grown by just about 1/10 of a second on the last lap. Another 1/10 of a second down to Vanderbroek as well. And yeah, indeed, not far from his best lap time set. Much is very, very true.
I'm trying to have a look as well, Hasse, what lap times are coming through from Matthew Forrest. That last lap time was a 1 minute 45.87, so 2/10 off of leader of the race, Martin de Jong. But what is he going to do when he comes across the line this time? 1:45.8 again, 2/10 shy. So, might not be working out for Matthew Forrest, but you never know. Obviously, with heavier fuel loads, running heavier for longer.
That's not just 2/10. It is. Oh, it is. Sorry, I was watching the wrong lap times indeed. But yeah, but those 2/10 of a second, it's crucial not to lose any time. Basically, you want to make sure that you're gaining, because chances are that the drivers up ahead could be having their pit stops a little bit shorter. And of course, if you stay out for as long as possible, you basically also, at least you do everything in your power to minimize the risk that you don't come out in front or in behind of someone in traffic, as has now happened to Matt Forrest.
Right, well, Martin de Jong, he's running lighter for longer than Matt Forrest. And goes out for yet one more lap. So does Pete Plasdow. So does Timothy Vanderbroek. So they keep on going. Going to get close to the 30-minute mark here. Could be very exciting to see how all of this unfolds. Martin de Jong leads the way again, extending his advantage just slightly. See Martin de Jong just under 1/10 of a second quicker that last lap. Still into the 45s, but the lap times are getting slower as the tyres start to wear. And then we wait for Matthew Forrest. Where is he going to come through across the line? What will his gap be? Goes behind. Comes out of the final corner now. Comes across the line. Got into the 145s. Is this going to be another 145 or 146.2? So again, dropping a few tenths. All those tenths are adding up. And then when we see Matthew Forrest come up to the drivers when they make their pit stops further ahead, this could be very worrying indeed, but it all depends how well they get the pit entry and pit exit, because Matthew Forrest's pit entry did look very, very quick.
That's a good point. We've seen Martin de Jong really gain on his pit stops as well on several occasions this season, so I would expect the Dutchman to be strong. That in that regard. Plastau now, having lost a bit of time over the last lap, actually 0.3 of a second to Timothy van der Broek. Seems to me that front end of the Ferrari looks to be understeering more and more. Oh, and a big touch of the curb there for Plastau,
yeah,
who
that's
pits
coming
in.
to the pits. I was going to say, no matter what the car in front's doing, if you make a mistake like that so late in the lap, you come into the pits. You just get yourself refreshed back into the pits. But Martin de Jong, he's going to come through as well. And now, focus as the cars stop. We'll focus, I think, to Matthew Forrest. What is he going to do? Where will he come through? He's got Nuno Vinagre just ahead, who also comes into the pits. Matthew Forrest now through the final chicane. Comes out around the final corner. All the other cars are stationary. Martin de Jong gets going as we see on the exit of the corner. Matthew Forrest. So does Pete Plastau. He gets going. And Timothy van der Broek. They stay in that order. Matthew Forrest, though, comes through and is behind. Definitely lost a little bit of touch to Timothy van der Broek, but as he comes into the first corner, gap comes right the way back down. Definitely, though, you can see Matthew Forrest has lost a lot of touch to the leader, Martin de Jong. Himself has actually been able to extend his gap just slightly to Pete Plastau. So a very good pit stop from the number 79, who looks to try and take his second race victory on the bounce here.
Yeah, indeed. And a great pit stop for both him and Plastau, I think, who basically did that actually Pete Plastau was stationary for a little bit shorter, but only 0.3 quicker on the overall pit lane time. So Martin de Jong really maximizing whatever can be done there in the pit lane, doing a good job of it, making sure he has enough fuel to go the distance. And then Timothy van der Broek, as you mentioned, he lost that little bit of time as well. All spread out ever so slightly. We're into the final 15 minutes of racing here, the 18th lap now of the 12th round of action from the Sunday GT Masters, of course brought to you by SimracerCoin. And as it stands, Edward, it looks to be Martin de Jong's race to lose at the moment. He's really, at least seemingly, had it under control for most part of this one. Doing a really, really good job indeed here.
Yeah, Martin de Jong, he's definitely found his feet in this new sort of tyre model that we've got on iRacing. I do love it on these iRacing GT3s. It's such a fun car drive experience that you get now. Whereas before, I think, as you'll remember back in the early days, say a year or two ago, it was just so tricky. You never really knew what the car would do. The GT3s didn't feel like GT3s. I can tell you what, there's a reason why on iRacing now it's the most popular car to drive, because they've done such a good job in making it feel so fun.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've never driven a GT3 car in real life, but it certainly it does feel like they say a GT3 car is supposed to feel, and especially that the ease of driving, not that it's easy to be fast in, but it's just not, when you compare it with many other race cars, it's not a particularly challenging car just to drive all on its own, and that's exactly what makes them so good as well, especially now that they're actually fully enjoyable to drive as well. Now Pete Plastau on this last lap has put on an absolute flyer to close the gap by what, half a second or something, and he's now well within the slipstream again. We didn't really see any mistakes from Martin de Jong, did we there?
No, I think it is just down to Pete Plastau finally getting the lap hooked up together. We saw a few mistakes creeping in before the pit stop, but that was what we were saying. Come into the pit stop, shake your head, shake the cobwebs out, and get back up and running. He takes so much more curb through that first corner, which really gains him the time on the lap. Throughout the rest, he's about there or thereabouts with Martin de Jong, but the real area where Pete Plastow was able to gain is through turn 1.
We're just over 10 minutes from the end of this race. Things are heating up at the head of the field as well. And it's the driver currently in 3rd, leading the driver currently in 2nd. While the championship leader is now down in 4th place. And Plastow with a look here at the inside of Martin de Jong. I don't know why Martin de Jong is seemingly slowing down at the rate he is. Is he having some kind of trouble with something? Did he under fuel? What you wonder? Because from out of nowhere, Plastow seems to have really found a lot of speed. He's now thundering along.
This is shaping up to be a real grandstand finish, isn't it? Pete Plastow, the gloves have come off, I think, and he's going to really start racing. This is a much more aggressive Pete than we've seen all race long, and he knows what's at stake if he gets through this. In fact, if he finishes where he is now, he will take the lead of the championship, but he doesn't want just the lead. He wants a commanding lead. He wants to get ahead of his nearest rival, Matthew Forrest, but also make sure that he covers off Martin de Jong, who's on a real charge in the championship so far. 2nd place will be good for Pete, but he wants that bit more, Hasse, and he's going to try and go for it now. Coming through turn 3, right up behind the rear bumper of Martin de Jong. Is he going to look into turn 4? Goes to the inside, brakes early, doesn't go for the move. He's looking though, Hasse. This could be very close.
Yeah, he's looking, but we've seen this sort of situation before in this race as well. With Martin de Jong really being able to fend it off, but he's gone into the gravel. He's kept it under control, but Pete Plastow surely has to go through on this one. And he does. He does indeed take the lead. Oh, and here comes Timothy van der Broek, and they touch it behind. A bit of door banging between the two Dutchmen. Might that have been it for de Jong, who gets a sort of a poor exit. There's, I think, Matthew Forrest hammers a cone. Oh, this is
brilliant stuff, Hasse. Martin de Jong just able to hold on, but had a huge scrap, didn't he, with, well, Timothy van der Broek in behind in the BMW with a little bit of front end damage done to Timothy's car. Just a touch on that right hand front wheel arch. You can see that it all appears to be in good working order in terms of Martin de Jong's car. So now, what can Martin de Jong do? This is his first time not being in the lead of the race. It's going to be very alien for him to actually have to chase and overtake now. His car does look quite strong in terms of straight line speed. He's closing down, closing up. Pete Plastow very defensive, but that one mistake we were saying, Martin de Jong at the start of this race showed lots of mistakes in practice, in qualifying, but in the race he looked impervious up until that one moment coming through turn 5.
And we've got about 7 minutes of racing left. We've got 4 cars within the overall space of what? 1.5 seconds? Yes, indeed. That's not great racing. I don't know what is. Here is Martin de Jong. Seems to be struggling from out of nowhere. I don't know if it's the tires or what it is. He might have been overheating them, or they might just be down to a bit of wear. We could see he was gaining quite a bit there on Pete Plastow on the straight, but he needs to be within slipstream range, I'd say, to really make those big gains.
This is going to be really close, I think. Both seeing Martin de Jong and Timothy van der Broek, but also Martin de Jong and Matthew Forrest with a moment. Is he going to get the car back up and running? Where is Chris Roberts in 5th place? He's having to keep it going, trying to rejoin the circuit. He does come through ahead of his teammate, but that all but confirms Matthew Forrest's place outside of the podium places. Oh, just You see, I'm not really sure what he was thinking because Timothy van der Broek can't really vanish on the exit.
No.
I think that was, unfortunately, an error from Matthew Forrest.
Yeah, that was all on his own, I'm afraid. And with that, it's at least
Cooled off a bit at the front now, I think. Hasse actually, Pete Plastow has extended his lead.
Yeah. Yeah, it tends to be going the way of Plastow now here into the final minute. He's been biding his time, and he was basically, I think, just waiting for that mistake to happen from Martin de Jong. It happened at an untimely place as well for Martin de Jong, and he's now under some real pressure from Timothy van der Broek. I'd say it's not the worst of times for the incident to happen there for Matthew Forrest. Only a slight incident. Bit of a detour onto the grass after that contact and slide. But had that happened earlier, and had he lost 4, 5, 6, or even more track positions, it would have been much more costly in the end here as well, as Timothy van der Broek certainly seems to try and maximize the track space there on exit, but still just being close. Not being close enough to get through on Martin de Jong here.
Fortunately not for Timothy van der Broek. Martin de Jong definitely losing touch though with Pete Plastow up in the lead. It seems for all the world, again, slight mistake from Martin de Jong there as he just runs a little bit wide through the first part of the 2 corners at the chicane. And now Timothy van der Broek in the BMW right up behind, gaining. You can see on board here, but not gaining enough on the run into turn 1. You can see how defensive Martin de Jong is going, driving his car to the inside, forcing Timothy van der Broek to the outside. No way through though. So Martin de Jong will hold on to second place, but I think now by fighting this hard, you can see Martin de Jong has all but given up on the lead of the race and is now going to try and fight to keep second place.
And Matthew Forrest has clawed back a second on those 2 just ahead of him. You have to wonder if they fight really hard those 3.5 seconds. They could vanish and disappear quite quickly in the end. But whether or not that is actually going to happen, I'm not quite sure. We're going to have to see.
So Martin de Jong holding on, but for how long can he do that? As we have battles everywhere, actually, Hasse. You can see, I think, like Reski in a bit of a scrap. You can see him trying to find a pass, find a move if he can, on Remco Barlow.
Yeah, very much so. And just up ahead of these is Nuno Vinagre as well. Further back is Emanuele Lucioli on the tail of Alfredo Tricorici, the Argentine for Virtua Racing. And compared to some of the recent races, the attrition rate here tonight hasn't been too bad. Let's just say we've seen much worse in the end. The gap to Pete Plastow here from Martin de Jong up to 2 seconds. As such, with 2 minutes to go, that's going to be 2 more laps to do here. I think indeed it is looking like it's all but settled by now.
You can just see Timothy van der Broek losing a little bit of touch through the corners compared to Martin de Jong, which means Martin de Jong is in a very good stead here as we are into the final few moments of this race. 1.5 minutes to go. Pete Plastow leading the race. I think after this we will have the white flag, Hasse.
Oh yeah, it's going to be the white flag this time around.
Stability actually, Hasse, of Pete Plastow's car. This has been what helped him to stay so close to the leader, Martin de Jong, and then to take the lead, capitalising on the mistake. He's just looked so stable all race long.
He really has. It's been a textbook drive so far from Pete Plastow. He really hasn't set a foot wrong at all. He's showing all the marks of a driver who could indeed claim the championship standings at the end of the season. And a win here is going to take him a long way, with Matthew Forrest in 4th place at the moment. He's going to take the lead in that standing for the first time in, well, I think in the season in general. I think Matthew Forrest until now has been leading all the way here, just about 15 seconds from the end of it. But indeed, the white flag is being waved, and it's going to be the final lap. It's now 2.3 seconds down to Martin de Jong. He's just trying to consolidate whatever he has. That is the wise decision as well. Matthew Forrest really making he kind of inroads into the advantage of the 2 drivers ahead.
Tell you what, House, so this will be very good for Pete Plastow, who will be his first race victory since the summer break. He hasn't won a race in this second half of the season, but what a time to do it when the championship is starting to hot up right at the death. He came 2nd place last time out at Monza, but here at Catalunya, he's coming out on top.
He really is the professor of this series, isn't he? Pete Plastow, with his consistency. So often there to pick up whatever points he can. He's been there to pick up so many podium places in behind Matthew Forrest. Forrest having... well, I'll tell you what, Martin de Jong won the opening race of this season, so of course he will have led at some point. But aside from that, it's about to be a 3rd win of the season here at Catalunya for Pete Plastow. I'll tell you what, though, he's been slowing down over this last lap considerably, and he's slowing down quite a lot here, and I wonder if he's under-fueled a little bit maybe, but he's going to hold it to the end and finish just about a second ahead of Martin de Jong. I'm going to have to ask him about that, because it looked a little bit strange indeed there. Timothy van der Broek gets 3rd and the last podium place ahead of Matthew Forrest. I think it's going to be Chris Roberts, Maceroni, Nuno Vinagre, and Matthew Forrest. That's what he thinks about this race, and maybe about the open setup, or the fixed setup, my apologies. As Dirk Reski, oh, is that on the line? And it's just
Dirk
a little bit...
just loses out.
Yeah,
Remco Barlow holds it.
That little bit too late. I think he... Did you think he ran out of fuel there? That would have been incredible. Oh, Trigorici and Lucioli here on the final lap as well, scrapping out for... It might just be minor places, but it's places indeed, and it's a grand fight. Oh, and Lucioli goes around the outside. That's a great move from the Italian. Another look at that one. They come towards the line. Talk about holding on there on the outside. I think there was a slight touch there. I'm not quite sure if Trigorici expected it. It was a great drive indeed.
Excellent overtake, wasn't it? I love the little detail actually on the front of Lucioli's car. You can just see the Italian flag on the front grille. Good way to use that space that not a lot of people like, but I quite like the front of the BMW. It's growing on me.
That's true. It's true. I think it's grown on a lot of people. They've gotten a new livery with Fast and Aged, it seems, as well, as they're no longer with the cheese livery.
Oh, what a race that was, though, Hasse. Pete Plastow taking top honours. You can see now confirmation on your screen. Virtual Racing compound driver takes the 12th round of the SimracerCoin Sunday GT Masters here, just ahead of championship rival Martin de Jong, who in the Rebel Racing number 79 closes the gap down to the championship fighters. Matthew Forrest definitely losing out there, but we'll come to him in a bit because Timothy van der Broek completes the podium for stage 1 racing. Good result, is matching his best result of the season with that podium finish. I'm sure I'll be very happy with that. Matthew Forrest a little bit off colour it seems, but still coming through in P4. Not too bad considering it wasn't his best evening. Finishing in the top 5 is still very good points. Chris Roberts there, 5th place for Virtual Racing Comp. I didn't really see too much of Chris, but he kept it steady. He's come through in P5. then Gaston Macaroni. Oh, it's not Macaroni anymore, Hasse, is it?
Okay. It's good old Maceroni, of course.
Maceroni, yeah. Maceroni in the 48 Virtual Racing Compound Car. 6th place for him. Nuno Vinagre, Remco Barlow, Dirk Reski, and Cody Steeg, who completes the top 10. Then we've got Mariano Lazarte in 11th, ahead of Chris Pio, first of the 2 Ford GTs, 12th and 13th, where we see Matt Sizzler. Then 14th place, we come to Jose Guidino, ahead of Emanuele Lucioli, Alfredo Chiccarici, Giambattista Giacetti, Gaston Bordi in 18th place. Then 19th, we'll see the Finn of Timo Paya, with Eric Luke completing the top 20. Unfortunately, Eric Luke struggling after that little spin in the opening 10 minutes. Still finishing ahead of Sandro Orsini, Stephen Orrell, and Niels Cornelis. Finishes in 23rd place, 23 laps down, coincidentally, Hasse. But with all of that out of the way, we do have post-race interviews to get on with. And I know you said you had something to talk about with Pete Plazdow. And you know what? He joins us in the commentary box now.
Well, indeed, Pete, welcome to the booth. Congratulations on a great win. Couldn't have come at a more important time, indeed. First question, though, from me is going to be that last lap. You lost about a second to Martin. You had a bit of a shorter pit stop in the end. Was that the fuel reserves being low all of a sudden?
No, it's tires limited that race throughout, really. If they got too hot, you just had no grip at all. I think that might have been what happened to Martin, and why I managed to get the win in the end, because he went a bit wide on the exit. But yeah, tires were definitely the limiting factor.
And indeed, this puts you in the lead of the championship fight for the first time this season. Only 2 races remaining, and you're in a brilliant position, to say the very least. Were you expecting this, say, back at the summer break of racing?
Definitely not expecting it, but you only need to be there at the top at the end, don't you? So that's all that matters, really. Definitely not expecting it with Matt's pace and Martin's pace and even Eric's pace. They're all unbelievably quick. And I've just been lucky, really, in this one, that Matt was slightly off pace today.
And you've taken what could be described as the professor's approach, picking up the points wherever available, and it's really been working out so far for the season, hasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. You got to be there at the end, haven't you? If you make a mistake, it's much better to finish third than to not finish a race. So I'm more than happy with that. Just pick up points every round, and you'll be there or thereabouts.
And a last question before we let you off the hook here. It was an interesting incident there last race at Monza between you and Matt. Is that something you've talked about since that? Yeah,
we had a little chat about it. We both had opposing opinions, but we've moved on. We're teammates, and we'll get on with it. And it's in the past now. It is for me. I hope it is for him.
Well, let's fingers crossed coming into the final 2 rounds that there's not going to be any calamitous action. Peter Plazdow, our championship leader, thanks for joining us in the booth for a post-race interview. And of course, as per tradition, there's a chance to shout out anyone you like here on.
Just as always, shout out to the team, VRC, and Robert for organising the event. Thank you very much.
Well, indeed, thanks
and you guys, obviously.
Oh, thank you, Peter. That's thanks for the kind words, and hope to see you again in the final 2 rounds of racing here.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you.
So that was indeed Pete Plazdow. We're going to move on to our second place finisher tonight. Here is Edward May with Martin de Jong.
Yeah, Martin, welcome to the comms box. That was a exciting race from you. Just couldn't hold on at the end. But I want to talk about that qualifying lap from you right at the death, going 2.5 tenths faster. That must have been magical.
Yeah, I also said in the voice chat, I don't know where that one came from. I mean, it was it was around the same pace as practice. But yeah, where I found the time, I don't know, but unexpected happy for pole position. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess you'd be happy with second place then, considering you were fighting all the way up at the front. You did narrowly miss out following a mistake, but still, great fight between yourself and Timothy van der Broek in those final moments.
Actually, no, I'm not really happy because I just made a mistake with the pit stops, refueling 1 or 2 liters too less, because it was really on the edge. Would it go 26 or 27 laps? And in the end, my crew chief was saying 27, and it was 26 in the end. So the fuel saving also pushed me into that mistake that when Peter could overtake me. And in the end, I still had roughly 1 lap of fuel left. So yeah, it was in the end not really happy. Happy with the podium, but it should and it could have been a win. Especially when I look at the state of the tires in the end. I did a 45.6 in my last lap again, which was quite easy actually.
So very quick lap times coming through from you, and of course a nice good race to finish P2. Closes up championship, considering championship leader Matthew Forrest finished down in 4th, and with only 2 rounds to go, open setup and fixed to come to round out the season, you've got to be very excited about your prospects, surely.
Yes, for sure. For Suzuka, I'm going to practice a lot, also because it's open setup. But that's also a circuit that I have some issues with at some parts. I mean, it's quite technical circuit, which I like, but somehow Suzuka isn't one of my favorites, so some work to do there. And Okayama, looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it's a little while actually before we do go to Suzuka, isn't it? I think it's about a month's time on the 21st of November. So in between then and now, we do have, of course, the Suzuka 10 hours on iRacing. You're going to use that potentially to get a little bit more practice time in.
I have to check my schedule if I'm able to drive the 10 hours, but if I can, that would be the best practice, of course.
I think it's on the first weekend of November, if I remember rightly. So we'll be able to see if you can use that to your advantage. But going back to the race, second place, championship, do you think you can do it? Do you think you can take top honours?
No, I don't think so. First of all, I need to win the next 2 races. And second of all, I also then need some luck regarding Peter and Matthew getting into trouble. I mean, I was a little bit surprised Matthew wasn't up on the podium as well. But no, third, I would be happy with third, but also second. But I think winning the championship, I'll need a hell of a lot of luck for that. Yeah.
Well, all you need is a little bit of luck on your way, and you could be sitting pretty at the end. We'll see how that happens, though. Thank you, Martin, for jumping into the comments box. Before you say goodbye, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to here on SimRacers World TV?
Thanks to Robert, of course, for the series. You guys with always the great commentary. And special note to my son, who has ear infection at the moment, so he's having a hard time. No, and also, a shout out to Pete and Timothy. I mean, they did a hell of a race, and Pete made me sweat a lot, and I like it. So can't wait for the final 2.
Yeah, I hope to see you out there in the final 2 rounds, and of course, best luck in the recovery of your son as well, Martin. Thank you for joining us in the comments box.
Thank you very much.
And with that, Hasse Rømer Young will exit the comments box, and we can bring in the other Dutchman that made it onto the podium. You can have a word with Timothy van der Broek.
Welcome to the booth, Timothy. A good drive for you as well. Second podium place finish of the season as well after a really strong race. Do you feel like you could have gotten even more out of it, or do you feel like that was potential maximized for now?
Oh, well, to be honest, the car felt really great around Barcelona today, and I was a little bit stuck behind Pete and Martin in the first half of the race. But after that, yeah, really the tires and the heat of the track were really getting the better of me.
And you've been there all this weekend as well through practice qualifying as well with good times and certainly looked up there. You feel like the BMW is stronger when you're on the fixed setup than on the open?
Oh, well, last time in Monza I had a little bit of bad luck because I was up there with the BMW and the open setup. But today everything came together for me for once.
You always need some luck, don't you? And it's a main ingredient as well. It's always a bit easier being lucky when you're on the front row or thereabouts. Coming into the final 2 races, we're going to Japan twice. The final 2 races. What are your prospects of those 2 rounds we're coming towards?
Well, to be honest, I have no idea. I haven't raced on Suzuka at all yet. And Alton Park does suit me a lot better, so it should be fun.
Well, indeed, Timothy, thanks for joining us in the booth here post-race, and congratulations on a strong podium finish. Before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout-out to here?
Oh, well, I want to shout out to my team, Stage 1 Racing, for helping me in the last few weeks to become more and more aware of my own driving and getting in the lap times.
Well, indeed, nice, fast and precise there. It's indeed Timothy van der Broek. Thanks for joining us here in the booth post-race, and hope to see you again in the booth here for an interview after one of these final races.
Thank you.
So indeed, Edward, that brings us to the concluding stages of this broadcast, of this race. Indeed, it's been a really good one, and we were seeing a championship unfold, or a championship fight unfold. Really one for the books, indeed, so far. It's looking to be grand coming into the final 2 rounds.
Yes, it is, Hasse, and everyone cannot wait. We've got it scheduled in the calendar for the 21st of November, the second to last round of the SimracerCoin Sunday GT Masters will be coming your way on SimRacers World. It's definitely one you wouldn't want to miss, would it, Hasse?
Absolutely not. That is very, very true indeed. We'll be back here on the channel as well. More iRacing broadcasting tomorrow with the SimRacers World Next Gen NASCAR Cup Series. Nice to get those 2 switched around. But indeed, that's going to be a good one as well. Look, going to cancel something. So I'm just ill-prepared for once. No, it's Dega. Oh my word! One not to miss certainly tomorrow, as Tyler Dega has given us some grand shows before. We've got the Porsche Club of Great Britain Porsche 911 Cup Series heading your way on Wednesday. Then, of course, on Thursday, we'll have the F3 as well with Chas Draycott. So plenty of watch, plenty of good stuff coming on, plenty to watch here on the channel in the nearest of futures. Give us a like and a subscribe if you want to see more. And until next time, from Hasse Rømer and Edward May, it's been a pleasure. Take care, have fun, and bye-bye.